Have you ever felt ashamed for eating something you really love? Or like you had to explain yourself after eating something only bad diabetics would eat? Or how about this one? Have you ever paid for food that tastes like crap because you didn't want to eat something that would make you have to take medicine? No joke. This is someone's idea of a low-carb meal. It's somebody's bright idea to help them avoid feeling guilty about the things that they eat. So let's talk about food guilt, fad diets, and whatever the hell this thing is. If there's one thing I've learned out of my years of being a diabetic is that feeling guilty for the things that you eat is a very real and complicated emotion. So real, in fact, that there was an eating disorder coined in the 1990s that associates persons who suffer from similar types of behaviors. A person with orthorexia will be consumed with defining and maintaining what they believe to be the perfect diet. They will fixate on eating foods that give them the feeling of being pure and healthy, regardless of the effects that it has on their individual body. And the sad thing is that it might even cause them to be critical of others. For example, friends or family members, and even strangers who don't partake in the same dietary disciplines as they do. Does that sound familiar? And it really is a shame that part of living with the disease that we have is food envy and guilt. And sometimes in the effort of trying to be the perfect diabetic, we can become vulnerable to fad diets. You know, things like keto, Atkins, paleo, intermittent fasting. And to be honest, I've tried most of these fad diets. And what's a fad diet? Really, it's just a way of eating that becomes popular for a while and then it grows out of popularity. And these diets usually will promise something like rapid weight loss or better health, lower cholesterol. And to be honest, most healthy diets, when done in conjunction with your endo or your nutritionist, can be beneficial to you. But I'd like to share with you a few fad diets that you should never try. Have you ever heard of the cotton ball diet? The cotton ball diet is a fad diet that involves consuming cotton balls dipped in liquid, such as juices or smoothies. The cotton is intended to make a person's stomach feel full without them gaining weight. This diet fad lost a lot of popularity after people started suffering large bezoars. What's a bezoar, you might ask? A bezoar is a solid mass of indigestible material that accumulates in your digestive tract, and sometimes it causes a blockage. And though this diet is dangerous, it's still a fad. Matter of fact, it's about a decade old and people are still doing it. Or how about the 5-bite diet? On the 5 diet, you can eat whatever you want. Just skip breakfast and only eat 5 bites of your food at lunch and then another 5 bites for dinner. Now, the idea with this diet is that regardless of how big your bites are, which I've seen some pretty big bites in my day, you still won't be able to consume more than 1,000 calories in a day. The craziest thing about this diet, and the next one I'm gonna share, is that they were created by doctors, like actual MDs. And if you're unfamiliar with what it takes to be a doctor, here's a recap. You're gonna need a minimum of 4 years of undergrad school, then another 4 years of medical school, and then anywhere from 3 to 7 years of residency, which means you won't be a doctor until 15 years after you begin the process. So yeah, it took this guy 15 years of research just to tell me that taking less bites equals less calories. But there's even a variation to this diet. It's called the Fletcher Diet, and of course, it was named after the doctor, Horace Fletcher. This guy took it to a whole new level. His idea is that when you eat, whenever you take a bite, you bite that same bite 100 times before it goes down your throat. So I think his idea was, if we turn eating into torture, people might eat less. Like, what the hell kind of Cracker Jack box did these guys get their licenses from? Really? And Fletcher went as far as to add that if you follow this diet, your bowel movements will stink less. Now it's easy to look at these diets and think, those people are nuts. And damn right they're nuts. But you gotta ask yourself, at what point does our pursuit of the perfect diet really become more detrimental to our mental health than our physical health? Be honest. How's your mental health when it comes to your diet and food guilt? Are you cynical of others? Have you ever hated yourself for not eating perfectly? for diabetics, these are bad habits that we cultivate from early on. It starts by simply restricting carbs, then going low carb, then going no carb, veggies, then more veggies, then all veggies, then juices, then fasting, and so on and so forth. Cotton balls. That didn't sound right. And listen, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, and I know anytime that you're in a diabetic conversation about diet, it's like throwing a grenade in the room because everybody's got an opinion. But I'd love to know your experience with overcoming these types of emotions. My advice is simple. Love yourself and be good to your body. Love your friends, cherish your family, and never allow food to steal those thoughts from you. So let's talk about food guilt, fad diets, and whatever the hell this thing is. So let's talk about food. So let's talk about food guilt, fad diets, and whatever the hell this thing is. So let's talk about food guilt, fad diets, and whatever the hell this thing is.